Every. Okay, you can start whenever you are ready.
Okay, I am Everett G., nicknamed Red Andrews. I was with the 101st Airborne Division back during the Battle of the Bulge, and when we were alerted to come to this area, I was in the 377th Parachute Field Artillery Battalion, and we were artillery support for the 502nd Infantry Regiment, who was in position generally in shops and long shops. We were assigned an area for our gun positions on the outskirts of the little town of Savvy, just north of Bastogne. There were a few houses in there, and the headquarters battery that I was in was assigned a house that was lived in by the Leroy family. And there were 4 of us officers that moved into the house at number 6. And we were fortunate enough to have a small generator, which we hooked up to the electrical system of the house. And we had lights, and we had a radio, and we could listen to BBC for the news, and that's how we found out we were surrounded, was listening to the BBC News. And the family lived in the house, and it was very, very good accommodations compared to the rest of the division infantry that lived in foxholes out in the cold. We were most fortunate to be able to stay inside. And we were running the generator the first night, and we started getting calls from the people in the town that they did not have blackout conditions because they had no electricity. And our electricity was backing up in the lines, and houses started lighting up. And so we had to find out where we could pull the switch and keep the electricity at our house. So we created a little firestorm then. I stayed in Savvy through the resupply missions, and that started on the 23rd of December. And I was on the drop zone helping gather supplies for the 3 parachute drops. And that was very interesting to see the planes come in by the hundreds, and they would have to fly through a flak belt, German flak belt, just before they hit the drop zone, so they were easy targets. And several planes came in damaged, on fire, engines on fire, had been shot up in the flak. But the pilots did a tremendous job of staying in formation until they dropped their supply loads, and then the crews would start bailing out of the airplanes, or the airplane would crash into the drop zones or explode. The discipline of the Air Force pilots during those resupply drops was just spectacular. But it was a little dangerous on the ground because the bundles of equipment that were tied to the cargo parachutes would break off very easily, and 150 to 200 pound bundles would come dropping down out of the sky, and if one hit you, it would have been bad. So I would get under a truck till the planes had gone over and dropped their loads, and then I'd come out. But that was generally my activity in savvy, and I did go up at the end of December to Longchamps as an artillery forward observer to direct artillery fire against the enemy. And all second lieutenants in the artillery got their tours as forward observers with the infantry as part of their education, I guess. But was there till the 3rd of January, and climate got real good for the Germans. They made their one final assault to get to Bastogne through Longchamps. And that started when the fog lifted on the 3rd of January. And when the fog lifted just across the valley from us, there were 12 German tanks with, I guess, the idea of getting into Longchamps. They got to the edges of Longchamps, but when I last saw the area at night, there were many burning tanks in the field, so they sort of lost that battle. And I guess from then on, things went pretty much in our favor. And well, not long before, it was all over for the German invasion of Belgium. And I did get wounded on the 3rd of January, and that was my departure from the war, and spent the rest of the war back in the hospital areas, and when I came back, it was all over with. I did end up in the 101st till it was deactivated at the end of November 1945. And we hated to see that. Actually not, because we were sort of geared to train for the invasion of Japan, which wouldn't have been too pleasant, I don't think. But I then was fortunate enough to go to the 82nd Airborne Division, which was going back to the United States to become America's Guard of Honor and make the victory parade in New York on the 12th of January, 1945. And then I stayed with the 82nd for 3 more years, did a tour of duty in Korea, and came back and stayed again to the 82nd. And then I finished 21 years in the Army and doing various assignments. And it was all a great pleasure, an enjoyable career to be in the military, and of course especially to look back with a tour of duty with a famed 101st Airborne Division as something that you can cherish the rest of your life. And I do look forward to returning to Bastogne. I've been here several times, and I've made very, very good friends here. And I bring my family each time, have a good traveling group, and they're with me this time, and we plan to come back for the 70th anniversary next year, December of, oh gosh, what will that be, 2014. I made my first visit here for the 40th anniversary of the Battle of the Bulge, and met several very fine people. I still have very good friends from that trip. One by the name of Andre Maurice, which I think is possibly known very well in this area. And I still see the people that were in the house in Savvy that we stayed in. One little girl, we see them every trip, and always a joyous occasion to see old friends. And I have made another one, Roberto, that arranges a lot of my activities here now. Mr. Ramaco by name. He's very knowledgeable about the battle. Yeah. We're getting close to time, you say?
You can finish now. It's 10 minutes.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to next year for the 70th anniversary, and hopefully my traveling days will carry on a little longer. I guess I reached 92, I'll be 93 for the next anniversary.
Okay.
So maybe I'll make it.
You'll make it. Okay.